I overheard my fiancé tell his friends, "She's a stepping stone, I'll dump her after she pays for the wedding." They laughed. I played along, then left him at the altar. This morning his sister texted, "Talk to him, please," but I'd moved to another city. His words freed me. Now he's alone and I'm building a new life. My revenge is his emptiness. I outsmarted him. Okay, Reddit, grab a beer and settle in because this story is gonna blow your mind. Like, I'm talking full-on telenovela drama that went down just 3 months ago, and I'm still processing the whole thing while sitting in my new apartment in Denver, sipping some Starbucks and watching the snowfall. So picture this. I'm 28, working my tail off as a marketing coordinator for this tech startup, pulling decent money but nothing crazy. Been with my ex-fiancé Ryan for 4 years, living together for 2. Dude seemed perfect on paper, you know? Good looking, decent job at some insurance company, drove a nice Chevy Silverado, the whole suburban dream package. We'd been talking marriage since year 3, and when he finally popped the question last Christmas with this gorgeous ring from K Jewelers, I thought I'd hit the jackpot. Wedding planning started immediately after New Year's. Ryan was all about this big fancy celebration, wanted the works at this upscale venue downtown, open bar with top shelf everything, live band, you name it. Price tag was looking at around 40 grand, which made my stomach drop since we'd agreed to split everything 50-50. My savings account was about to take a serious beating, but hey, you only get married once, right? Plus, Ryan kept saying how this was going to be the best day of our lives and we needed to do it right. The red flags started popping up around February when I noticed Ryan getting weird about the budget, like he'd push for all these expensive add-ons. Premium flowers, upgraded catering, better photographer. But when it came time to write checks, suddenly he was broke. His Venmo requests to me were getting more frequent, and his explanations were getting sketchier. Companies behind on commission payments, or had to help my mom with some bills, that kind of stuff. I trusted him though, figured we were a team and money would sort itself out after the wedding. By March, I basically funded about 70% of our wedding. My credit cards were maxed, savings were gone, and I was picking up freelance work on weekends just to keep up. Meanwhile, Ryan's still out with his boys every Friday, hitting up Buffalo Wild Wings and buying rounds like money grows on trees. When I'd bring up the financial stress, he'd get all defensive and say I was being paranoid, that married couples share everything anyway, so what's the difference? The night that changed everything happened exactly 2 weeks before our wedding date. I'd been working late on this project proposal, totally buried in spreadsheets and PowerPoint slides, when I realized I'd left my phone charger at Ryan's buddy Jake's place earlier that day. We'd all hung out there watching March Madness, and I'd plugged in to charge while we were grilling burgers on his back patio. Update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments and support. This is harder to write than I thought it would be, but your messages are keeping me going. The next part of this story is where things get really dark, and I'm honestly still shocked at what I heard that night. Some of you are asking if I confronted him immediately. Trust me, after what I'm about to tell you, you'll understand why I played it smart instead. Have you ever heard something so awful that it literally changed your entire perspective on someone you loved? So I drive over to Jake's around 9 p.m., figuring I'd grab my charger real quick and head home. Jake's got this split-level house in suburbia, and I could hear voices coming from the back deck as I walked up the driveway. The sliding door was cracked open, and I recognized Ryan's laugh immediately. I was about to call out when I heard my name mentioned, so naturally I stopped to listen. What I heard next literally made my blood run cold. Jake was asking Ryan about bachelor party plans, and Ryan goes, "Dude, I'm just trying to make it through these next 2 weeks without losing my mind. This whole wedding thing is such a performance." Then his other buddy Mike chimes in with, "At least you're getting a sweet honeymoon out of it. Cabo's gonna be sick." That's when Ryan said the words that destroyed 4 years of my life in about 10 seconds. Honestly, guys, she's just a stepping stone at this point. I mean, she's basically paying for this entire wedding, which is perfect because I can dump her right after and still get the Cabo trip. Her credit's maxed out, she's stressed constantly, and she's not even that fun anymore. But hey, free wedding. And vacation, then I'm out. The guy started laughing and Mike goes, "Bro, that's cold but brilliant. You're getting a $40,000 party and a Mexico trip for basically nothing." Ryan's response made me physically sick. She's so desperate to get married that she'll pay for anything. It's actually pathetic how easy this has been. After Cabo, I'll probably ghost her for a few days, then come back with some excuse about needing space or whatever. She'll be so broken she won't even put up a fight. I stood there in Jake's driveway for probably 5 minutes, just listening to them plan out my emotional destruction like it was some kind of game. They talked about how Ryan had been setting up dates through dating apps for after the honeymoon, how he'd already looked into breaking the lease on our apartment, even how he planned to keep the wedding gifts since technically they'd be addressed to both of us. The level of calculation was terrifying. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment decision. Dude had been planning to use and discard me for months, maybe longer. Every time I'd stressed about money, every time I'd worked extra hours to pay for wedding expenses, every intimate moment we'd shared, it was all just part of his elaborate scam. I snuck back to my car and sat there shaking for like 20 minutes, trying to process what I'd just heard. Part of me wanted to storm back there and confront him, maybe throw my engagement ring at his face and tell him exactly what I thought. But another part of me, the part that had just learned my entire relationship, was a lie, started thinking more strategically. If Ryan wanted to play games, I could play games too. But I was gonna win. I drove home and acted completely normal when Ryan got back around midnight, asked him about his night, listened to him lie about playing poker and losing $20, even kissed him goodnight like nothing had changed. Inside, though, my mind was racing with plans. The next morning I called in sick to work and spent the entire day making arrangements. First stop was the bank, where I opened a new checking account and transferred what little money I had left. Then I called our wedding venue and discovered something interesting. Since I'd been making all the payments, the contract was primarily in my name. Legally, I could cancel everything with 2 weeks' notice and get about 60% of our deposits back. But canceling felt too simple. Ryan deserved something more memorable. I spent the next week playing the perfect bride-to-be. Confirmed final details with vendors, picked up my dress from alterations, even sent out cute Instagram posts about wedding countdown excitement. Ryan was being extra sweet that week too, probably feeling guilty about his secret plans, bringing me flowers and talking about our future together. Every kind gesture made me more determined to teach him the lesson of his life. Meanwhile, I was secretly coordinating the most epic wedding day surprise in history. I reached out to my cousin who works in event planning and explained the situation. She was horrified but immediately offered to help execute what we started calling Operation Stepping Stone. The plan was simple but devastating. I'd show up to the wedding, let Ryan get through his vows and feel like he'd successfully completed his scam, then drop the truth bomb during my vows in front of everyone. Update. The messages of support are incredible. Thank you all so much. A few people are asking if I felt bad about the public humiliation aspect. Honestly, after what he put me through financially and emotionally, I felt like he deserved exactly what he gave me. The wedding day itself was surreal, and watching his face when he realized I knew everything was both satisfying and heartbreaking. Some of you want to know if his family knew about his plan. That revelation came later and shocked me even more. Ready for the most dramatic wedding ceremony in Colorado history? Wedding day morning arrived with perfect weather and perfect irony. I woke up in the bridal suite at our venue, surrounded by my bridesmaids who had no idea they were about to witness the most dramatic plot twist of their lives. Got my hair and makeup done, put on my beautiful dress that I'd saved for months to afford, and took some gorgeous photos that would probably be the only wedding pictures I'd ever have. Ryan texted me around noon with some cheesy message about not being able to wait to marry me, with heart emojis and everything. The audacity was unbelievable. I texted back with equal enthusiasm, playing my role perfectly. Ceremony was scheduled for 4 p.m. I watched from the bridal suite window as guests arrived. Ryan's extended family, our mutual friends, my parents, who'd flown in from Ohio, all dressed up and excited to celebrate what they thought was going to be the happiest day of my life. Seeing my mom tear up as she talked to Ryan's mother about gaining a new daughter almost made me reconsider the whole plan. Almost. But then I remembered sitting in Jake's driveway, listening to the man I loved describe me as pathetic and desperate, and my resolve strengthened. The processional went perfectly. Bridesmaids walked down the aisle to some romantic song I'd spent hours picking out, flower girl scattered petals, the whole traditional setup. Then it was my turn. My dad walked me down the aisle, and I could see Ryan at the altar looking genuinely emotional. For a split second, I wondered if maybe I'd misheard that conversation, if there was some explanation that would make sense. Then I saw Jake and Mike in the third row, and Mike actually winked at me. The disrespect was unreal. Ryan's vows were beautiful and completely fake. He talked about building a life together, about supporting each other through everything, about loving me more every day. He even got choked up when he mentioned how lucky he was to have found his soulmate. The crowd was eating it up. I could hear sniffles and see people dabbing their eyes with tissues. Then it was my turn. I started traditional, talking about how marriage was about honesty and partnership, about really knowing the person you're committing to spend your life with. Ryan was smiling at me with what looked like genuine love, and I almost felt bad for what was coming next. Ryan, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. 2 weeks ago, I learned something about marriage that I want to share with everyone here today. His smile faltered slightly, but he probably thought I was going into some heartfelt story about love or commitment. I learned that some people view marriage as a business transaction. I learned that some people see their partners not as equals, but as what they call stepping stones. Now Ryan's face went completely white. He knew where this was heading. I learned that some men will let their fiancés pay for an entire wedding, max out their credit cards, and work themselves to exhaustion, all while planning to abandon them right after the honeymoon. The crowd started murmuring. Ryan tried to reach for my hand, but I stepped back. So Ryan, since you told Jake and Mike that I was just a stepping stone you planned to dump after our free vacation to Cabo, and since you thought I was too pathetic and desperate to ever find out, I have something to tell you. The church went dead silent. Even the photographer stopped clicking. I heard every word you said that night, every cruel joke, every calculated plan, every disgusting laugh about using me for a $40,000 party. Ryan tried to interrupt, started stammering something about misunderstanding, but I wasn't done. So here's my wedding gift to you, honey. You're right, this wedding is over. But unlike your plan to ghost me after Cabo, I'm ending this right here, right now, in front of everyone who thought they were celebrating love today. I pulled off my engagement ring and handed it to him. You can keep this since you probably need to return it for rent money. And don't worry about Cabo, I already canceled the honeymoon and got our money back. Well, my money back. The chaos that followed was incredible. Ryan's family looked mortified, my parents looked confused and angry, and Jake and Mike were trying to disappear into their seats. Ryan kept trying to explain, claiming I'd misunderstood, that it was just guy talk, that he loved me and wanted to work things out. But I was already walking back down the aisle, my bridesmaids scrambling to follow me, leaving Ryan standing at the altar in his rented tux looking like his world had just exploded, because it had. Update. Holy smokes, this post blew up way more than I expected. Thank you for all the awards and supportive messages. Reading through comments has been therapeutic in ways I didn't expect. A lot of you are asking what happened immediately after I left the church and how I managed the logistics of disappearing so completely. The truth is, I'd been planning my exit strategy for 2 weeks, and having a background in project management definitely helped with the details. Some of you also want to know about Ryan's family's reaction and whether anyone tried to defend him. That part of the story surprised even me. Ready for the aftermath and my new life update? Leaving the church was like escaping from some alternate reality back into the real world. My bridesmaids were incredible. They immediately rallied around me, helped me out of my dress, and started fielding the hundreds of questions from confused guests. My maid of honor, Sarah, had been in on the plan from the beginning, so she'd already arranged for my parents to meet us at my apartment. The conversation with my mom and dad was brutal. They'd spent money on flights, hotels, and wedding gifts, and seeing their daughter humiliated at her own wedding was devastating for them. But once I explained what I'd overheard, what Ryan had been planning, they shifted from confused to furious. My dad, who's usually the most mild-mannered guy in Ohio, actually said he wanted to drive back to the venue and have a conversation with Ryan. While my family processed everything, I was executing the final phase of my escape plan. Remember how I mentioned having a background in project management? Well, turns out those skills are super useful when you need to disappear from someone's life completely. I'd already given notice at my apartment, transferred my job to our company's Denver office, and arranged for movers to pack everything while we were supposed to be in Cabo. My landlord was actually sympathetic when I explained the situation. Apparently, she'd been through something similar in her 20s. By Sunday evening, less than 48 hours after walking out of that church, I was driving my Honda Civic through Kansas with everything I owned packed in the back. The texts and calls from Ryan started about 2 hours after I left the venue and didn't stop for weeks. First, they were apologetic, claiming he was drunk that night, that he'd said things he didn't mean, that he was just nervous about marriage and talking big to impress his friends. When I didn't respond, they got angry. He accused me of overreacting, of destroying his reputation, of embarrassing his family for no reason. Then came the bargaining phase. He promised therapy, claimed he'd changed, even offered to pay me back for the wedding expenses, though he never explained where he'd suddenly get $40,000. When that didn't work, he tried guilt trips about our history, about throwing away 4 years over one conversation. The final phase was just pathetic. He started sending long voice messages at like 2 a.m., crying and begging me to come back, saying he couldn't live without me. Jake and Mike apparently cut him off after the wedding drama, so he'd lost his buddies along with his fiancé. His sister Emma, who I'd always gotten along with great, kept texting, asking me to give him another chance, claiming he was falling apart. But here's the thing, I wasn't falling apart. For the first time in months, I felt completely free. Denver turned out to be exactly what I needed. The mountains, the fresh air, the complete absence of anyone who knew about my disastrous almost wedding. I threw myself into work, started hiking on weekends, joined a book club, even tried rock climbing. My credit card debt was still a nightmare, but I'd gotten back about $25,000 from canceled wedding vendors, which helped tremendously. 3 months later, I'm sitting in this cute coffee shop in downtown Denver, financially recovering, emotionally healed, and genuinely happy for the first time in over a year. Yesterday, Emma texted me again asking if I'd talk to Ryan because he's not doing well. Apparently, he never went back to work after the wedding, moved back in with his parents, and has been basically hibernating in their basement playing video games and ordering DoorDash. Part of me feels bad for him, because despite everything, I did love him once. But then I remember that night at Jake's house. Remember him laughing about my desperation. Remember how carefully he planned to destroy me, and that sympathy evaporates pretty quickly. The truth is, Ryan gave me the greatest gift possible. He showed me exactly who he was before I legally bound myself to him forever. If I'd married him, I would have spent years wondering why our relationship felt hollow, why he seemed distant, why I always felt like I was trying harder than he was. Now I know it's because I was never really his partner. I was just his stepping stone. His current misery isn't my revenge. It's just the natural consequence of being the kind of person who uses people and throws them away. Meanwhile, I'm building a life based on honesty, self-respect, and actual love instead of manipulation and lies. Sometimes the best revenge really is just living well, while the people who hurt you face the emptiness they created in their own lives. Ryan wanted a stepping stone, but all he ended up with was a rock bottom that he built for himself. And me? I'm climbing mountains now, literally and figuratively, and the view from up here is absolutely incredible.